Welcome back to this new inspirational video. Today I wanted to talk about the inability to give up. I really want you to think about that one concept. Many books have been written about persistence, about being determined, never giving up. It's a saying we're all pretty familiar with, like you should never give up on your dreams. But yet so many people do give up. Now this is something that I've noticed in my own life, but if you actually analyze many successful people out there, they all seem to share that in common with each other, where they have a dream and they're so passionate about realizing that dream that it never enters their mind to give up forever. Now when we say the inability to give up, it doesn't mean that we won't have failures, because I've had failures along the road for myself. It's only ever since I've started this channel that I feel like I'm actually on purpose with my life and doing something that will be worthwhile in the long run. Before that, I would dabble into activities that would make me successful to a certain extent, but sooner or later I would discover this is not something that I could really dedicate most of my life to, or at least most of the years of my life. That is how I look at it, and I think if you start to consider that for yourself, something that you could do and that you would want to do for many, many years, we're talking about perhaps decades, in fact the rest of your life, well then you reach a place where you're unable to actually give up because you can see the purpose and meaning behind what you're doing. Now this is the trick, it's to find out what that is for you. And this is something we discover hopefully as we grow up, but we realize now most people actually don't discover their real purpose in life, and as long as it's not discovered, it's easy to give up on stuff because you're actually not doing the very thing you're meant to do. It's a huge question, because if you reach that point, you become unable to give up. And if you are unable to give up, what is the outcome of that? Well, the outcome would be that you start to realize your dreams. Perhaps you have some doubts on that statement, because at the end of the day, it also depends on how we go about it. If we're approaching our dreams from an angle that isn't most, effective, then if we keep approaching it from that angle, we might not progress as effectively or at all if we're not careful. It doesn't mean that our dream is impossible of realization, that's the thing. However, a dream might take some time for it to be realized, and that is where we have to become determined and persistent to keep on going. Most people don't have that kind of dream. Do you have such a dream? If you do, you understand the meaning and purpose and power behind not giving up from a real spiritual and mental perspective. It's not just saying like, oh, I will never give up. You can actually feel through your bones that you can never give up, because it's part of who you are. It's actually like you would be giving up on yourself from that angle, from that point of view. Have you found such activities for yourself? Because if you don't, you should really start looking into it. That is where life becomes a fun adventure, where you start to realize more and more of your own potential and dreams, and you start to discover your real reason for being alive. Many people walk around on this planet without any, inside idea of why they're actually here, and that's kind of sad. That actually, in a way, it can be peaceful, but at the same time it also is kind of sad. It really depends on how you go about this, but for that reason alone, many people might become depressed and unmotivated and feel like life is not worth living. And then for others it can bring huge peace, because they realize their real purpose in life is to just not do a lot. It might sound strange to the average person, but it's true. Some people are better off just meditating, for example, for the rest of their lives. They are really on a spiritual journey for the most part and working with their own consciousness, and don't really care about sharing any insights or things they discover about it with the rest of the world. That's fine too, because at the end of the day, your life, it can be long or short. We don't actually know. You might be living for a couple decades, or your life might be much shorter than the average person. So ultimately it comes down to finding the activities that are most meaningful to you and that bring you the most pleasure and joy with the years that you have. If you really think about it, that is really the purpose of life. But then we have to make sure that we aim at activities that are indeed part of our purpose, part of something that we're passionate about, something that we never give up on. Throughout my life, when I was starting to work on certain goals, sooner or later I would give up on them. I would see a certain amount of success and then I would just give up, and then I would focus on something else. It was like, I did this, I achieved this goal that I thought was impossible. I discovered it wasn't impossible at all for me in the end. But now I realize it doesn't bring me the greatest joy, or the sort of joy that I hoped it would bring me. And I kept going through that cycle over and over for almost a decade, until I finally found, well, the insight and perhaps even courage to do what I'm doing now, which is to just simply share what I discovered about consciousness in my own way and see if it can help humanity. I know it helps some people, but I'm not aiming at helping everyone, because I know that's also way over the top. Making that your goal, to help every single person on the planet, it's a huge goal, and it's probably highly unrealistic of that to happen, for the simple fact that everybody has a different point of view, and not everybody's ready to accept my point of view, and I'm not ready to accept their point of view at times. So we'll always have a form of conflict going on, but at least I'm on purpose doing something that I enjoy doing, and know that I wouldn't mind doing this for the rest of my life. So if I would be here for the next, well, maybe 5 decades, who knows, right? Or longer, then I would do that. I'm not even joking. I wouldn't mind doing this for the rest of my life. That's why I have an inability to give up as well. I might take breaks at times from my work, but then I get back to it sooner or later and keep on going. You know, keep on keeping on. Do you have such a purpose for yourself? Because that's what you really need. And they don't need to be big goals that you want to reach the whole globe and planet. It's just about you finding a way to give meaning to your own existence. And you have that option. It's all up to you. You have that freedom, the choice on what that will be about. You don't have to go along with how things were set up before you came along, based on the rules of society. So in that sense, you don't have to go along with just getting a normal job and then sticking to that until you reach the age of where you can go on pension, and then finally you have all this freedom to sort of live your life like you want as a 60 or 70-year-old person. That's how most people live. It's kind of sad, because then they sort of are like, okay, now I don't have to work anymore, so what am I going to do with my life? Some people actually have to figure that out. Other people actually become so depressed because they're not going to work anymore, that they don't know what they're supposed to do with their time. So they become so used to working a normal job that was at least bringing them income, without paying attention to what their real inner purpose for existence is. Because once you discover that, whether you're in a job or not, you can work on that, and it brings you fulfillment. It brings you satisfaction. You see, these emotions, these states of mind, are very important to the quality of our lives, because if they're missing, then nothing makes any sense. Nothing is really balanced or on track at all for us on a almost soul level, you could say. The inability to give up simply means everlasting persistence and determination. It's a quote I once wrote for myself. It was a longer quote than that, but those were a few words that I used, and I wanted to share them with you through this video. When you say to yourself, I'll have everlasting determination, unbreakable persistence, stuff like that, while you focus on your dream, if you keep repeating that to yourself and you really mean it, you start to develop the inability to give up. And then no matter what your dream is, and no matter what people will say about it to you, whether they believe in you or not, because of this mental state of mind, you'll be able to grow there and make it happen. That's the power you want to unleash within yourself. Because again, if you look at other successful people right now, you see they're consistently acting on their dream. No matter what their dream is, it doesn't matter, but they're consistently acting on a certain activity that they're most passionate about. When you look at YouTube content creators, it simply means they're consistently making videos that they enjoy making. When you look at successful actors and they're passionate about their job, they are consistently involved in making new movies, and on it goes with the director, with everyone that is involved in movie productions. But you can also look at musicians, people who start a business, whatever that business is going to be about, they're consistently active on their purpose, even if they have to start small. That's how it happened for me as well. When I started this channel, I only had a handful of friends that I told about it, they would subscribe. So it was about 4 people. Now there's hundreds of people more, but it started with only 4 or 5 people, perhaps at max, right? So I uploaded that first video, and I knew, don't be shocked if there's almost no views on this, besides your friends. And when I uploaded the video, indeed, it was true. Like for a long time, it just had like 4 or 5 views. But at the same time, I was like, but this is my purpose, this is my passion. I really want to share stuff that can inspire humanity and make them think for themselves in a bigger and better way. So I'm gonna keep going. I had developed already an inability to give up, no matter what it looked like. Other people might say, oh, this looks like a failure. This channel's probably never gonna go anywhere. But yet I had purpose and passion. It's still here. And I'm still gonna keep going. I don't care what other people think of my dream, whether it can happen or not. I just know if I just keep working on it, at least I'm doing something meaningful with my time, from my own point of view. And that's what you want to figure out for yourself. Once you've figured out what is meaningful to you, well then you become determined and persistent enough that you become unable to ever give up on it. And that's when you start realizing more and more of your dreams. Now, if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to receive inspirational videos on a regular basis. And with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.